Old business. Terry Feller. Is he in here? Yep, Terry.
This is old business or not new business?
No, it's old
All
business
right.
because it was addressed at council at one other time.
All right. Thanks. I feel Nate's pain, trust me. I've been working all weekend, all week, and I'm on vacation to be here. So I'm trying to take as little time as possible, and I've been pretty humbled. As I said, I sent you a letter. I was going to go into civil court, and I talked to lawyers, and they had one simple question. They said, you know, does the alley affect you? No. Does the landowner complain? It's like, no, he hasn't. So they said, why do you want to make it your problem? Because I was going to end up paying money to start with to hire a lawyer, and he says, why do you want to make it your problem? Because it's not my problem. It's still your problem. So basically, all I did is I researched what I could. I have the original map, which you have a copy of. And up here, in this original section on the certified map, and I way overthought this process again. But anyway, does anybody know who the founder of Fromberg is?
I have it written down, but I can't remember his name. I know there are several.
Well, it'd be William J. Swallow.
Right.
He's the founding father. So, spares. Can you read?
Yeah, I can read. I have my glasses on.
I forgot mine.
You can't see through the scope unless I got my glasses.
Got one left. So anyway, William J. Swallow is the founder of Fromberg. He,
I don't read lips.
in 1899, if you read the last part of this, if you read the whole thing, it tells you the full description of the land that was surveyed. And he surveyed and platted the original plat of Fromberg. So this was all his property. He donated, and if you read the last line where it says Fromberg, it's hard to read. But basically, I gotta take my glasses off. The lands, while they were dedicated, all the parks, avenues, all the streets, avenues, parks, and alleys shown on this plat are granted and donated to the use of the public forever. So he granted and donated the original part of town, which put a protective covenants on it. And the quitclaim deed that's associated with it, you know, it lists the exact, and it says, and the adjacent alley. But the Montana law gave that property special protection. It has to remain as it was intended. I've been up to clerk and recorder, we've been living up there. So anyway, the Montana law protected that donated and granted property just as it is. So unless William Swallow gave a release, it falls under Montana statute. It's protected property. Which in turn would put the people on that deed, it would put them on an adverse title. So that'd be Jim, Anita, and Carrie. Is Carrie your daughter?
Yeah.
That would put them on an adverse title, which makes that property basically, I don't know if it's worthless or not, but I know you can't sell it. What is the adverse title?
Right now, I haven't heard that the town doesn't have the right to abandon property, abandon alleys.
Well,
Can do.
An adverse title has to be, if you pay taxes on that property for a certain amount of time, or you maintain that property for a certain amount of time, you can go to the county and file for adverse title. which means that you are entitled to own that property. So if you look up the meaning, go online and look up the meaning of adverse title.
You're talking about adverse possession.
Right.
Okay,
Adverse
yeah.
possession.
After 7 years of unchallenged possession,
Right.
paying taxes, whatever.
And then they are
then it's presumed to be that
automatically,
person's.
yeah.
Even though it was donated and granted to the public forever?
There's a, there is a, yeah, but there is a statute that allows the town to abandon alleys.
And what statute would that be?
I don't have it in front of me, but I did research it.
Okay, then moving on. Anyway, it might be something you might check into, because if it is bad title, you can't get a loan on it, you can't, the property just becomes worthless.
But the fact of the matter is, Terry, is that over the years, he has gotten loans on that property because he was the very first person that put in that trailer court over there. It's been
He
sold
didn't
several
own the
times.
alley at the time he put in the trailer court.
His grandfather owned that whole block.
James Swallow owned the whole place. Or William Swallow owned the whole place.
Well, I'm looking at some of the research into that, and this document was recorded in 1899
Correct.
when the town was incorporated in 1912, and this is what I'm checking on, because as far as I can see, when the town was incorporated, all of that was into the incorporated town, which rendered all of this null and void. So that's
All right.
something that I'm checking with actually several lawyers on.
I'm good with that.
MMIA.
Nah, I'm good with that.
So we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, as I said, I have no legal backing, I know nothing, I am just, this is what I could find at the clerk and recorder.
So why are we going through this process, Terry?
Because I assumed that since it was granted to the public forever, that the public would own such said property.
And that's been contested. So why are we going through this process?
So when did we contest it?
I'm saying that there's a procedure for abandoning alleys. That was done back in 2011 with the first resolution approving half the alleys, quit clay deed.
Do you have a copy of that first resolution?
I do.
That's because nobody has a copy of it.
I believe there's a copy of it in our book, right?
No.
I don't believe, we looked through it, we can look through it again.
Clerk and recorder has no copy. So,
1 minute, Terry. Terry is still copying here.
so anyway, we move on to the next one. From the legal town minutes, which each member of the council received a copy of August 5th, 2019. July 11th, 2011, zoning, James Perkin asked the town to abandon a proposed alley. Proposed alley, there's no such thing as a proposed alley. Proposed alley is, there's no such thing, it doesn't exist. You can't abandon something you don't have.
When you set aside a certain amount of area for alleys, streets, parks, whatever, at that point, it is a proposal. It is not a certainty until it's
The alley
actually
we're talking
dedicated.
about is already dedicated and certified to the original town plat of Fromber. It's no longer proposed, it's made. So anyway, the alley between him and Dave Jensen Trailer Park, Mayor Anderson said he'd look into it. A proposed alley, and had, all right, got ahead of myself. Mayor Anderson said he'd look into it. A reasonable person would have noticed Tony and Mary Espinoza lived at the end of proposed alley and had lived there since the mid-70s. A reasonable person would have noticed directly across the street there was an alley. A reasonable person would have looked up the town plat hanging in the council chambers. None of that was done. From the legal minutes, August 1st, 2011, of which each member of the council received a copy on August 5th. Discussion was held on proposed alley, voted and approved unanimously with no surveyor guide. Even William J. Swallow used a surveyor guide 112 years ago to show property boundaries. There was no resolution or ordinance created to dispose of city property as required by law, not unless you can find one. Clerk can't find one. And there's Yeah, and the deed clearly states 1/2 of proposed alley. There's no such thing as a proposed alley because it went to a certified alley. And the only way, 2011, you could get rid of city property was the lease, donation, or transfer must be made by ordinance or resolution passed by 2/3 vote of all members of the council. The clerk and recorder does not have a resolution. I cannot find a resolution in this place. Doesn't mean there's not one, just can't find one. And I'm buzzing right along because my alarm's already set. I have to work tomorrow and I feel Nate's pain. Remember, these are out of your legally binding minutes too. Who? One of these is a lot thicker than the other one, Jim. I don't know what happened. All right. From the legal minutes, Town of Fromberg, which each council member received. Jim Perkins, half alley. Perkins has maintained this property and is a dead end. Possible quitclaim deed is needed in the second half of the alley or letter survey. Alley is totally on Perkins' property. Discussion held. Attorney Freeman will look into this. Next agenda meeting. The alley is totally on Perkins' property. Why does he need a quitclaim deed? Both statements can't be true. In a town meeting, if you follow along, I kind of got this. I'm pretty unorganized. In the town meeting on October 2nd, 2017, Resolution 472, a legal release by Montana Code